You want to know what the biggest lesson is that I've learned when working with and learning about human design? It's that human design isn't just a one-time revelation. It's an ongoing journey of continuous self-discovery. And that's exactly why I created the Human Design Guidebook. I wanted to provide you with a trusted resource, something you could return to again and again as you explore different aspects of your unique design. Inside, I've broken down the essential elements of your chart into clear, actionable guidance that helps you make decisions that actually feel right for you. Each guidebook is custom created to your specific chart, walking you through your energy type, strategy, authority, profile, all your channels, all your gates, and a lot more. All of this delivered to your inbox in a downloadable PDF format within 3 to 5 days. No more overwhelm, no more staring at your chart feeling lost, just simple guidance to understanding your unique energy and how to align with it. If you're ready to stop second guessing and start living according to your true nature, head on over to humandesignhive.com/guidebook to grab your copy. And as a special thank you for being a listener, use code POD10, that's POD10, at checkout to receive 10% off your purchase. Trust me, you won't regret it. Okay, now let's get on with the show. Human Design reveals who you are energetically and who you came here to be. I'm Dana, your Human Design guide.
And I'm Haley, on this journey with you to uncover the power of human design.
Together, we're here to explore how embracing your authentic self is the ultimate path to a life of more freedom and fulfillment.
Welcome to the Human Design Hive podcast. Let's get into it.
Well, hello there, Haley. How you doing?
Hi.
Good. I always try to make it sound different, but it never does. It just sounds dumb when I try to make it sound different. It's good to see you. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How many decisions do you think you already made today?
Consciously, I don't feel like I've made any.
Right.
But, I mean, I have made choices.
Yeah.
Decisions.
It's like, have you, or are they just decisions you've made the same one over and over again, so you're just on autopilot?
I don't know.
I was thinking about it because we're going to be talking about making decisions today, particularly decision fatigue and what that is. But as I got to thinking about it, working at home, how that can limit how many decisions you might have to make in a day. Because let me ask you this, when you used to work outside of the home or when you were going to school or whatever, like how much time, okay, this may not be a good question for you, but it's a good question for me. How much energy, I should say, would you put into like deciding in the morning, like what you're going to wear, especially going to work when you had to like dress formally?
Well, not a ton, because I think I maybe had like 3 pairs of pants and 3 shirts or something. So like I had a very simple thing. And I mean, like, I don't wear makeup, and I don't really know how to do my hair. So like that wasn't a lot of decision either.
Blessed.
But I mean, like, I would still have to make decisions. Like I would still have to put a little more thought into what I wore.
What about this is the one that everybody has trouble with. How about like on a night in, you decide you're going to watch something on Netflix or whatever. How long does that take to find something to watch?
Well, okay, so like where my decision fatigue and stuff comes in there is my decision on, am I going to read or do something crafty or just watch TV or like that? And I will talk myself out of reading, because I think in the space that I'm in now, like reading is my probably most preferable thing I want to do. But I'll think myself out of it because I'll be like, oh no, I'm too tired to read. Like, I don't have enough space in my head to like really follow what's happening. And I'll talk myself out of it. And then I just throw on a show that I've seen a million times, or
Oh, that's right. You're always
else.
You and
I'm
my
a
sister are rewatchers. I am not a rewatcher. I may be a reader, not fiction, but other things. But well, what's interesting is I came across this article about decision fatigue, and so much of what it was talking about, I was like, oh man, I can remember. I mean, not to say I don't have decision fatigue, I can still have it, but I remember not understanding what I could do about it or that it was a thing. But basically, it's talking about how we as people each day are making something around 35,000 decisions daily. It's like
That
every
doesn't seem
2.5
possible.
seconds.
That doesn't, I mean, I
It
guess
kind of does.
we have to
'Cause you
decide every single thing that we're doing. Like, I gotta decide if I'm gonna walk in this room or this room in my house,
exactly. That's a
but
decision.
it's not consciously. But that's why it's
Mm-mm.
like, that's why it doesn't, that stat doesn't feel like it's real, because
It's
these
real. It's also
decisions
like if
you
they
don't think
tell
are
you how many,
decisions.
yeah, they tell you how many thoughts or whatever going through your head every moment as well. It's a lot. How much information the brain is processing in every second is insane. Like we're sitting here talking, my hands waving around. I can feel my other hand. I'm sitting in a chair. I'm breathing. I'm talking. I'm like consciously aware of it. I'm looking at you. I'm using my eyes, like all the things, right? Like a lot.
You're overwhelming me.
But like you said, it doesn't seem possible that we're making that many decisions on average in a day. And but it's the truth, especially I think if you're out in the world more, possibly even more the decisions you have to make. But it's no wonder that we can feel so exhausted a lot in our days when we're not aware of all the things that we're doing. And that decision fatigue is really this mental and emotional drain that comes from all the countless decisions we have to make in a day. And for me to choose a Netflix thing in the moment is awful. It's like, which one do I watch? So I tried to, as I'm scrolling one day or whatever, I'll be like, you add it to your queue. I want to watch that. I want to watch that. I want to watch that. But then in the moment, like if there's other people involved and everything else, it just gets to be this thing like, I don't know what decision to make, right? It's like, which is going to be the right one, which is going to be the perfect one. Oh, this one would be good for everybody because it's a comedy, but it's 2 hours and 20 minutes long, like all the pros and cons, right, of the one thing instead of just sticking to it. And that's because we have been conditioned to approach every decision in our lives through the mind, right? Because as human beings, I should say, that's different, but I think our brains, our ability to use our mental capacity, our conceptualizing our decision making is, I think, what got us to the top of the food chain, right? Is like being able to analyze and think and all that stuff, right? It's good for a lot of things, right?
It is.
It is.
It can be good.
Right. But at the expense, we have become so reliant on the mind that it has detached us from our more innate natural wisdom in the body, right? And that continual trying to find an answer from the mind can become energetically draining, right? Because mental and emotional exhaustion results from just like making all these decisions, and it actually, instead of making it easier to make decisions, it makes it harder the more you rely on your mind. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, because I'll get up in my head, and a lot of times, like on the weekend, Pressy will ask me, like, what do you want to do? And I'll be like, well, I want to do this, but I know that I need to do this and this because I have to get that done. So it's like my mind wants me to do the responsibilities I have to do, versus like what I feel like doing and what I want to do is something that's more fun and more that would like fill me up rather than drain me.
Yeah, common common problem, I think. And the more that we do that, making decisions just become like too much, right? We tend to, some of the side effects of like this fatigue that comes from having to make decisions all the time because, not every decision, like you said, is a life altering decision. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what shirt am I going to wear today? Same as you. I have a very limited wardrobe, even though my
Mm-hmm.
closet's got clothes in it. I have like, okay, it's this temperature range. I have these four items to choose from, but oh, that
Mm-hmm.
one's too casual, or that one I don't like the way it feels, or this one I'm going out later on. I can't wear that. That's too comfortable. Like, it's insane how many things will go in my head to where I just
Mm-hmm.
like do the thing that a lot of people do. You just get flustered and you're just like, fuck it, I'll just do this. And of what seems the most logical choice to wear today, instead of being like, I'm going to wear this shirt because it makes me feel pretty. Well, that doesn't make sense because you're just going to be in your house all day, right? We talked
No one
about
else
that,
is
didn't
gonna
we?
see you. Mm-hmm.
That was part of one of your New Year's intentions, right?
Yeah.
How's
I
that
haven't
going?
gotten there yet.
Well, you moved. You hid all your clothes. You don't know where they are.
I don't.
But so a lot of times what happens when people get into this decision fatigue, there's a tendency that when you're really just exhausted from having to make all these decisions all the time, you tend to like either make impulsive choices of just like that dopamine hit, like let's just go this direction,
Mm-hmm.
or you can actually end up just automatically saying no to a lot of things because you just unsure of what the outcome will be. And so it puts you in more of a shutdown
Mm-hmm.
mode. I think I
Yeah,
can
I feel
experience
that.
both. Yeah, right?
Yeah. Because, like,
Yeah.
sometimes even just like the simplest thing, like going to do the simplest thing, can just feel like way too much.
And that's a symptom of decision fatigue because there's really in this article it's talking about there's these four main symptoms of decision fatigue, which would be hello, calling my name, procrastination,
Yeah.
putting off making decisions till later because it's just too much. It making the decision becomes the problem in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You might have a problem and you think you have to solve it, but then actually making a decision about the problem becomes the problem.
Yeah.
That would be like analysis paralysis for me a lot of times. There another symptom is impulsivity, like I just said, of taking the time, you make these rash decisions based on little evidence. It's just like, it just doesn't matter. Whatever choice I make, it's gonna be so you just make one,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or avoidance, which is just never making the decision at all, right? Just like I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
do it. And then the indecision. So I think they're kind of overlapping. Indecision would be like, oh, I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to do that. I mean, I think we know what indecision is, but it's just a
Yeah.
never making it, just going back and forth, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, this has been one of the greatest gifts, I think, for me with human design and learning about human design and
Mm-hmm.
how I'm made to make decisions is this process has become illuminated in a way. Like I said, I could still fall into the default
Mm-hmm.
behaviors of, for almost 50 years of decision making from the mind
Mm-hmm.
to understanding that you need to give it a rest a little bit of the mind. But that has been like how we all do it, right? From the
Mm-hmm.
mind. And so it makes it hard to make right choices. It, like I said, it leads to impulsive behaviors like stress shopping or something. When, um, for me, it's like when we said earlier, just a minute ago, about the impulsivity or the dopamine
Mm-hmm.
hit or whatever. I think this is a sneaky way it comes in that you don't realize it. When I'm working on something here at my desk and it feels a little more difficult or whatever, and I'll get to a point where I have to decide, well, am I going to go this direction or this direction?
Mm-hmm.
I pick up my phone and start scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Yeah.
you do that?
I do that. I do that at work, and mine maybe is less because of a decision I have to make and more
Hmm.
because I have like 5 seconds that I'm waiting for a file to open.
The 5-second rule. Yeah, it's like that's too
And
much time.
exactly. I'm like, well, I'm just sitting here waiting. Let me scroll my phone. And next thing it's 20, 30 minutes later. And I'm like, fuck,
I'm
I'm done.
done. Where's that file? Oh, I forgot to press the button to tell it to download. I don't know how many
Yeah.
times I've done that. I think I'm downloading it and I'm like, I'll go do
Mhm.
something else. So there's a lot that goes into
Mhm.
this problem with decision making. And I find that when I'm letting my mind control the process, I
Mhm.
definitely get into, like I was talking about, that analysis paralysis thing. This is something I identified a long time ago within myself. But the do nothing approach, because you can't make the decision, quite often just prolongs the problem and makes it causes even more problems when you just like don't make a
Mhm.
decision about something.
And it's like when you just keep kicking it and kicking it and kicking it down the road, like your mind makes it a bigger thing than it actually will end up being.
Yeah, but you get fatigued. Your mind, your emotions, you just get worn down.
Mhm.
And when you are in that state of, fatigue is a also a symptom or an indication of some sort of dysregulation in the nervous system or burnout, that kind of thing. And when you're
Mhm.
in that state, your critical thinking gets reduced. So it even becomes like even more impossible to rely on the mind, because now you're not even getting good information anymore. It's like
Mhm.
all
It's
fucked up.
really
So,
shitty.
yeah. But we have a solution, sort of. So, like I said, when I came to human design, I think the conversation around authority and learning about authority, and I know this is true for a lot of people, sounds good. And you're like, oh, okay, I just know how to
Mhm.
do it now. But I know a lot of people ask me, like, what does that
How
mean?
do I do
What
it?
is my authority? How do I do authority?
Mhm.
So your body, your authority is your body's way of helping you make decisions. It's informing you through the instrument that is your body, because the mind is there. The mind contains like who we think we are. It's the mental processes. Yes, it does a lot of the things, but its job is to gather information. Its job is to take all the pieces, try to make sense of it. There's one of those three gates in the head
Mhm.
center, and the mind is all about taking in information from the field, trying to make sense of it, conceptualizing. But there is no mental authority
Mhm.
in the human design system,
Mhm.
as far as, yes, you should listen to your head and what it tells you, right?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
we talk
Mhm.
about this a lot.
Yes.
And for intellectual types, such as myself, like I rely heavily on information. I'm a line one. Like I
Mhm.
love information. I love gathering information, researching, going deep. And when I say I'm not an expert at following authority, this is one part of it, because I will just keep gathering information and I'll get to a point with certain things and it'll be like, my mind will be like, but you need to know just a little bit more to know if you're making the right decision.
Mhm.
And that's as simple as like booking airline flights. It's like,
Yeah.
what's going to be the right one, right?
Mhm.
I mean, what are we all taught to make good decisions before we know about this? What, like, if you had a really challenging, problem and you just didn't know what to do, what would somebody tell you to do?
Make your pros and cons list.
That's right. Make your pros and cons list for
I
sure.
hated this. I always hated this.
I could
Not my
only
thing.
think, I could only think of cons mostly. I tend
You
to
and my
default.
husband both.
I tend to default. Depends. Well, I guess it depends on what the decision is about. If it's something I don't want to do, I'll find all the cons.
I was never about that, really.
Yeah, right. Well, like we said, the mind is meant to, I mean, one of the gates
Gather.
is rationalization. It's meant to rationalize things, look at things from a detached perspective, take in the information, make a rational decision, blah, 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 blah. But the authority that we talk about is not that. It is not rational. It is
Mm.
about feeling and knowing, right? And that is not what the thought system of the world has not been dominated by feeling or intuition or stillness and paying attention.
Yeah.
So,
You know what? We can see how well that's been going.
right.
Yeah.
So, what it's done is for most of us, we grow up doubting ourselves. We don't trust ourselves to make the right decision. And this is one thing that a lot of people come to me and come to Human Design or what I help with is these decision points in their life. Like,
Mhm.
and I can't tell you how many times they come to me with the question, and especially in the intuitive readings, it's like they have the question and I can reflect back to them what I see in their chart. And also for like using tarot or anything like that, just tapping into the energy of the moment, what I can tell them, they're not always shocked by it. It's like they know, but they've just been trying to mentally get through the decision of what makes sense. And quite often, what makes sense is not what your heart or your soul is telling you. And that's why when we talk about human design and embodying your human design, this is such a big component of it, is understanding your type, how you're meant to interact with the field, but then also your authority of how you're designed to make decisions, because it takes a lot of pressure off of you. However, it's a learning process, because as we were
Yes.
talking about this, you were like, I don't get it.
I don't know.
Right. So I'll talk real quick about the different authorities and what they are, what they feel like, and what fatigue feels like there. And so, and you could technically, so this is something that people get confused about, is layers of authority in a way, but we'll get to that in a second, because it might say you have one authority, but then you have different centers that are defined in your chart that could,
Which you do.
yeah, that could come into play when you're making decisions. So there's really kind of just 5 main types of authority. You might see a little more, sometimes when you run your chart, it may say, it'll always tell you when you run your chart what your authority is. Some of them kind of overlap a little bit when it gets to projectors, because certain projectors have different ways of using authority, but we'll stick with the main ones here. So of course, the most well-known one is the Sacral Authority, the sacral response, because so many people on the planet have sacral authority, right?
Yes.
So if you have sacral authority, and that is your main authority on your chart, of course, it'll say sacral authority, or it might say pure generator, that kind of thing, or pure manifesting generator, because those are the two that can have that authority. What that means is on your chart, when you're looking at your chart, your sacral center is defined. That means it's colored in. You're either at your chart, they're going to be white centers or colored in centers. So what is sacral authority, Haley?
It is this, like, I would say it's the best way to describe it is like people that have like this gut instinct. Like they just kind of have this. Oh, I'm jealous.
I know. I was just thinking as you're answering, I'm like, it's so cruel for the generator to ask the projector what sacral authority. What is that, Haley?
Yes.
Well, yes, it's when we talk about it in human design, it's a sacral response, that gut level, yes or no. And I think it's important to point out that it doesn't have to actually be in your stomach. It is when we say gut, it is a feeling in your body that is visceral. It is felt. It is clearly felt as a yes or a no. And so when I'm helping people get in touch with that, I always say my sacral response for a no is very much a constriction, a feeling that even it comes out on my face a lot of times, like instantly, like that smells bad, I don't like it. That's the fastest response, I think, is my reaction is. But the yes is very expansive, and I feel it higher up than the belly region. It feels
Mhm.
like an expansion in the chest, almost like, ooh, it's excitement, right?
Mhm.
And then so when you're in a fatigue decision making response, if you haven't been following the sacral as much, your pattern is to try to overthink everything and ignore that sacral response. Like you just become completely numb to it. And this is where most people are in their life before they start questioning why it is they do the things they do, is they've just been mentaling their way through or acting on outside influence of what they think
Mhm.
they should be doing, right? We talked last week about comparisonitis and like how we are always trying to measure up to somebody else or measuring ourselves
Mhm.
against someone else and what society thinks or other people think or whatever. And this can definitely lead you to ignoring that sacral response
Mhm.
because it's so natural to us that I can say you just forget about it. And I swear I can tell you that I still every day am ignoring my sacral response. I know
Mhm.
I am. And I try not to. I'm
Mhm.
like, wait a minute, what am I doing right now? Did I want to be doing this? Did I check in with it? Because you have to really pay attention to it as you're moving throughout your day. To It's just like a muscle. It's exercising
Mhm.
a muscle. You have to keep, paying attention to it. So a way to do that and to get more in touch and alignment with that sacral response is, like I said, just pay attention. Notice the first reaction. Have some people or have someone that you trust that can ask you a bunch of yes or no questions, just so you can start feeling what the difference is between
Mhm.
yes or no about things that don't matter. You
Simple
know,
things.
yeah, like somebody would ask me, like, is it raining outside? It's like easy. I No. Do you like cooked carrots? No. But it's like you can
Uh-huh.
start to feel a different. It's like you don't think about it. That's the key. You're not thinking about it. It's just what happens. But and that's the big one, is the splenic, or excuse me, the sacral authority with generators, of getting in touch
Mhm.
with that. Now the next one, which is also kind of a uh knowingness, and it's kind of a instinctual type of authority, is your authority that you have, splenic authority,
Yes. Spleen.
which means on your chart, if you have splenic authority, you are not a generator or a manifesting generator, because your sacral center would not be defined. Because if
Mhm.
that's the top one. If you're
Mhm.
defined there, that's an authority. So this means it would be you are a projector or a manifester. You could have splenic authority.
Mhm.
Technically, honestly, I would say that even that is not completely accurate, because manifestors can have other centers defined, like say the will center to the throat would
Mhm.
make them a manifester. They still sometimes call that, though, a splenic authority if you also have your spleen defined, type of thing.
Mhm.
So, anyways, that's a aside. We're not teaching a
Mhm.
class on authority. We're just going to talk about it.
Mhm.
So, splenic authority is what, Haley? What is that?
So splenic authority is like it, like you said, it's this just instinctual, it's this knowingness, and it won't repeat itself.
Yeah, it is linked highly to intuition. And they always say that, like you said, it's in the moment,
Mhm.
speaks once, right? And it's not, I, it's akin to sacral response because
Mhm.
it's internal, it's a knowingness, but it may not hit like the sacral response does.
Mhm.
That is feels more visceral. You can feel it, like it can be a little more elusive. And
Mhm.
so when you are how to recognize when you're in this like fatigue pattern of where you've been relying on your mind too much, is because you're doubting your intuition, your intuitive hits. So you're
Mhm.
looking outside of yourself for other people to tell you what feels right for you, instead of, because that splenic authority, as you said, it's instinctual, because
Mhm.
that's an awareness center, right?
Mhm.
That carries that instinctual awareness of what is good for us, what's healthy for us. It's the
Mhm.
original awareness center in the human experience of like our animal nature, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And if you like look at animals carry a lot of instinctual awareness. That's how they operate. They don't
Do.
question it. They just like, oh, I go this way, I go that way. I know this, I know
Mhm.
that. It's there's no mental questioning,
Yeah.
rationalizing
I
in a
mean,
bird's mind as to like where it's going to
if
find
I
food.
if I watch Bailey in the backyard, like she's just going all over the place sniffing around because that's just what she wants to do, and it's like, oh, that's nice.
Oh, nice. I know. Like we were talking yesterday, you gave me a tour the other day of your home, your
Mhm.
new home, a little FaceTime tour. And every room we went in with Bailey, she would find the sun.
Uh-huh. She loves the sun. She will find the square of sun that is on the ground and she will lay in it.
Yeah. She didn't ask anybody's permission. She just walked into every room and laid down in the sun. I'm like, ah, let's
How
follow the
nice.
dog. That sounds like a great idea.
Mhm.
Yes. So when you're doubting your intuition and you have splenic authority, you're looking outward for everyone else to tell you what to do. That's not
Mhm.
good. So again, to get into alignment is to um honoring those first hits you get, the first instinct, and
Mhm.
to honor that it can change since it's splenic,
Mhm.
right?
Yes. Mhm.
What feels right in the moment may not feel right later on. And this is a big distinction with people with splenic authority that someone asks you if you want to have dinner on Thursday night and you say yes, but it's only Monday. You
Mhm.
know, you get to Thursday afternoon and you're like, this is not going to be good for me. You're either tired or you start feeling you don't even rationalize, you don't have a rational reason why you don't want to go. You just don't want to
Just
go
don't
anymore.
want to anymore. Yeah. I have that I have that problem a lot. When I'm trying to make my meal plans for the week.
Yeah.
I like I'll set things out on dates and I buy all my groceries and then I get to like I might get to the day and be like, "No, I actually want this meal that I have planned later." And so I'll
Mhm.
flip-flop things or I'll be
Mhm.
like, "I don't feel like making dinner tonight. We're gonna
Mhm.
order something."
Yeah. No, that's a good example. I do that all the time too. I will maybe plan out 4 or 5 meals. Um, and the only thing that determines in stone sometimes is if I have like something in the evening going on that I
Mhm.
have to attend to or a meeting or something like that where I know I won't have a lot of time to prepare. So
Mhm.
I'll have this, but it's very fluid because I'll do the same
Mhm.
thing. I'll be like, it's Tuesday, but I don't want to eat that. Like, it
Mhm.
doesn't feel right anymore. And I'll move it all around, which is it's good. There's a reason for that.
Yeah. I have pork chops sitting in my fridge that I don't want to make at all.
Yeah. Maybe you will later.
They're already kind of past their sell by date.
Yeah, I meant later today. Maybe you'll change your mind.
I don't know.
Maybe you'll see something and we're like, ah, that's a good idea.
Presley doesn't understand it.
Let's see. So the big one, these are like the big three, is emotional authority, which we talk about all the time because,
Mhm.
50% of the planet has emotional authority, which means your solar plexus, which is on your chart, is the right hand side triangle that is colored in. That means you're defined there, which means you have
Mhm.
solar plexus authority. And no matter what other centers you also have defined, like a sacral center potentially, or a spleen center potentially, as myself, if you have that emotional center defined, that is your authority. It is the top authority.
Wait, you have 3 different authorities, don't you?
I have three different potential. I have one main authority, which is emotional,
Mhm.
but I also have two other centers that inform decision making as well, which we'll get into in a minute. But for emotional authority, the solar plexus is the center that operates how, Haley?
It has waves.
It has
Has
waves.
emotional waves and you have to wait. You gotta wait. Gotta
Hmm.
see how it feels after some time.
That's right.
That's
There's clarity comes with time if you have
Mhm.
an emotional center. It's a defined emotional center, which it's important to also note with emotional authority. You can ride those waves. You can not make the decision in the moment, as you're not designed to. You're not designed to be
Mhm.
spontaneous. If you have pure sacral authority or splenic authority with no other definition, you are meant to be spontaneous. If you have
Mhm.
emotional authority, that is not your overarching like way of being, is spontaneity. And for the big decisions in life that impact like use of your resources, your time, your money, your energy, your
Mhm.
interactions with other people, and you have emotional authority, you need to sleep on it. You need to take the time, because you might not be able to get through your whole emotional wave overnight, but it can certainly override the initial excitement or dread or whatever.
Mhm.
If you can take 24 to 48 hours to make a big decision, come back to it with a clearer, what was it, clearer head, but really just a clearer perspective
Mhm.
of how you feel about it. And so that would be, if you have that authority, you find yourself rushing to make decisions, that's a good indicator that you are in this like decision fatigue. You're not in alignment. You're just trying to like, you feel
Mhm.
pressured to know now, right? That's a big one. You got to know
Mhm.
right now. You got to be decided. Got to make decisions. Got to be
Mhm.
authoritative, because if you can't make decisions, then you're never going to be successful, because you have to be a firm decision maker and stick to it. Stick to the decisions. It's like, oh, yeah.
You know what? Fuck
Mm,
off.
Jesus. Harsh.
Uh,
So,
it's just kind of one note on that I was just thinking, like, it's so interesting that because we are moving into the solar plexus as being the, what do we talk about? We're
it's like
moving
a
into
dominant awareness center, like the
yes,
new.
yes. Yeah. So it's so interesting that we're moving into that, which is like you have to slow down. And I think people are already even unaware of human design. Like I think people are wanting to slow down, and like how it's so interesting to think of the rise of technology and social media and like all of this instantness that we have to be like everything is
Mm-hmm.
so urgent, and people are coming to the awareness that it's really not that urgent. Like
Mm-hmm.
we can slow down and we can take our time with things and the world will still exist.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you said, that's what they say. This paradigm shift is moving towards a more emotional awareness as our main way of making decisions. Um, in the sense that it's interesting, half of us have it, half of us don't, and so that means half of us are experiencing it, and the other half is learning about how we experience it, right?
Mhm.
And becoming wise to that. And as you said, we can slow down, and this center shows we should, because when we look at splenic authority and emotional authority, or the themes of the spleen center and the emotional center, they're both about decisions and getting into
Mhm.
action or deciding what to do, kind of thing. But the spleen is reactionary. Like we said, it's in the moment. It is a lot of times, because it is geared towards your safety and your well-being and what's good for you. That's what the spleen center does, helps keep you
Mhm.
alive. The decisions that help keep you alive, you shouldn't have to think about those things.
Mhm.
They are the things in the moment of whether or not you eat the berry, or whether or not you walk out in that field to be exposed to the predator. It's
Mhm.
like those things that in each moment we didn't have time to think about it. We had to just follow our
React.
instincts, right?
Mhm.
Reactionary. Whereas the emotional solar plexus center is the intentionality. It is a creative center. It creates from what you actually want to happen, right?
Mhm.
It is taking your time to get in touch with how you feel about things, so that you can create with intention. And that's
Mhm.
very different to reacting. And like you
Mhm.
said, this is the rapid progression we've been feeling in the last couple decades, but more intensely so, absolutely, in the last 5 to 10
5 years.
years
Mhm.
of whoa, whoa, whoa. It's like, is this
People
really
are
what
like,
I
what am I
want?
doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this really what I want? What do I want? How can I create? It's the whole rise of the law of attraction and all that other stuff, is people are understanding that we have the capability, and almost, I would say, the responsibility to be very intentional with what we
Mhm.
create, because we are very powerful creative beings,
Mhm.
and we're starting to step into that and honor that. And so
Mhm.
that's what that emotional solar plexus is about, is taking that pause, taking that space. Am I just jumping in? Is this what I want? So that's emotional authority. It takes time. So the next authority would be like ego authority, or willpower, will center authority, if you have that center defined. So it actually would mean that you just don't have your spleen, sacral, or the solar plexus defined. Well, because like I said, you can have the spleen defined and the ego center, will center defined, and it may say splenic, but really it's this ego, because it's a motor, right? The sacral is a motor, the solar plexus is a motor. And so if you have the spleen defined, you think, oh, I have splenic authority. But if you also have the will center defined, the will center is a motor. And so I think it's really going to influence like how you make decisions based on how that center is functioning.
Yeah. It has a
And
little more pull.
a little more pull, and it's based on what your heart wants. It's based on what you desire. It's based on what is something that you want to do or achieve. It's like the direction you want to go. It's like willpower. It's like, this is what I want. And when you are maybe not in alignment there, you could be falling into traps of like overcommitting or undercommitting. Like it's just like you think you have all this energy and this power, you can do it, and it's like, yes, I want to do it, but you may not be able to actually fulfill all that. And so you have to like really, with that authority of the will center being defined, is one, it kind of you have to really pay attention to your own capacity for being able to, maybe as you make these decisions, can I really fulfill this decision? Because that's the one that's like the gas tank, right? It's like, can I do it? Do I have the resources to do it? And so it's really driven by your desire, but you also at the same time have to check in with yourself and see if you have the energy to fulfill that decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so? Maybe. But really it's checking in with, is this something I really want? Like it's a real want and desire, because, and a lot of times this is associated with manifestors, and they can play down that authority because they've been taught that it's selfish to just go after what you want. Or if they have been overcommitting and trying to fulfill other people's desires, like I said, that gas tank gets depleted. They're not filling up their own resources. And so they could be checking out of what it is they really want because they just don't have the capacity for it, right?
Right.
So that's paying attention to, what do I really want, is your authority. So, and then we come to self-projected authority, which is, you have maybe the G center defined, your projector, and there's nothing else below the G center, right? So it also is a matter of following really what your heart wants, in a way. It is one of these authorities, and this is also the same for mental authority, which is a projector thing as well, where if there's mental authority, there's nothing below the ajna center defined. No, the throat can be defined. I take that back. But anyways, so these authorities that are all, I'm going to kind of lump them all together because they're not connected to a motor. They are more of just G center, the throat, the head, and the ajna. These are also just kind of awareness centers. They don't have the capacity to get into action on their own. And so when you have these authorities, you have to get in the practice of kind of speaking it out loud, of what it is you're thinking about, what your decision process that's happening in the mind. Get it out, speak to people about it, because you need to when you're interacting with someone else and you're speaking your truth out loud of what you're thinking or what you feel in your heart, when you actually can hear it spoken out loud, you get more of a resonance of what feels right for you.
Mhm.
And also, people can help reflect that back to you to help you understand how you really feel about it instead of just when you're in decision making fatigue there, you're internalizing
Mhm.
all your decisions. You're
Yeah.
not looking outward for any kind of help. You're feeling
Mhm.
that you can make all the decisions in your
Yeah.
mind.
And when you just keep all of your thoughts inside like that, like your brain is trying to find confirmation bias for the decision that it thinks is right. So
Mhm.
you won't see any other perspective if you just
Mhm.
keep it all inside. Your brain's going to say, "Oh, well this backs up the decision that we think is right." And
Mhm.
when you vocalize things to people, they can say, "Well, have you thought about this?" or "That didn't happen like you thought it did," or like
Mhm.
they can help you see other parts of it that your brain doesn't want to see.
Mhm. Yeah, and you can, like I said, you can use your own voice. You could sometimes hear in the quality of your voice of how you talk about it, how it can give you clues into how you're
Mhm.
actually feeling about it. Because if you've rationalized that this is the right decision in your mind, but as you speak about it, you can hear the quality of your voice is like maybe, kind of
Wavering or
lethargic or just kind of like, well, this is, or you might hear the words you're saying, like, I should do this, or this seems like the right way to go. But then
Mhm.
is that really lining up with how you're actually feeling about it? And so it can be difficult to suss out, but it's really important to have people that you trust that can help you bounce those ideas. And if you don't, I mean, even just journaling it out, but really speaking it out loud, maybe make voice notes, voice memos, that kind of thing, looking in the mirror if you can tolerate that, or or talk to your dog. Talk to your animal. How do you really feel
Mm.
about it? Maybe they'll look at you like, "Really, Susan? Is that how you feel?"
You're like, "You know what? You're right. I'm gonna go do this instead." It's like,
Yeah.
"Don't look at me with those judgy eyes."
Just
No, they're
speak
great.
it. Just speak it and see how you really feel about it.
Mhm.
And then this really isn't
It's
authority, they
interesting
say.
talk
Mm,
about talking to your animal because, like, we've you run a chart on an animal, and 99 rough math percent of the time, they're a reflector.
yeah, they're here to help us. They're reflecting back, letting us know we're in good shape.
Mhm.
Which reminds me, which brings us to the last technical, no authority, they call it for the reflectors, because reflectors have no defined centers in their
Mhm.
chart. So they are open. They have really their strategy and their authority are pretty much the same as lunar
Okay.
authority of waiting 28 days or a lunar cycle to make those decisions, because if they can tell they're out of alignment or they're not really, or they're in decision fatigue, whatever you want to call it, if they're like always trying to make the decisions like
Mhm.
when, right away, they're not giving themselves the time to decide, because they need to also have trusted individuals, sounding boards that can help them throughout the month to reflect on what it is they really want, because it's going to change throughout the month. Their definition changes throughout
Mhm.
the month as the moon moves through all the different gates. Some days they have maybe they have sacral definition, some days they don't, or their head center is lit up or whatever. So they're going to feel the full spectrum really of how they feel about a certain decision based on that. And they need people around them that can help them, like we just talked about with the mental authority, to kind of get a feel for how it is they really are in that decision. So, as you said, I have three of those centers defined. I have
Mhm.
splenic, sacral, and solar plexus definition.
Mhm.
And it's been a balance to figure that out. Now, when I think about how I was operating before, I'm not really taking the time to make decisions, how that worked out. Like
Mhm.
I would always tell people, once I started learning about human design, understanding my authority and trying to follow it, I am emotional at the core authority. I need to
Mhm.
take time. Okay. I was the worst one at the shiny object syndrome,
Mhm.
the impulse shopping of just making rash decisions in a moment. And they weren't always the small decisions. Like I would just be like, oh, go this way or go that way. Sure, that feels good. I'll do this. And then regret.
Mhm.
And so I was very impulsive in a lot of things when I could be. And because there is this, there is this, it's not a belief, but there is this thought system. What's not this idea that is pushed forth lately, especially as we moved into this like doing what you want to do kind of thing
Mhm.
of if it's not a full body yes, then it's a no. And I
Mhm.
still see this put out in the human design community too. And it's not necessarily true
Mhm.
because if you have layers of definition like I do, okay, if I go with all my full body yeses all the time and I'm not honoring my emotional authority, then I get myself in trouble. And I have, and it's cost me money before.
Mhm.
I've been like, um, yes, I want to do this program or I want to do this. Oh, this feels so good. And like I'm hooked on all the marketing and everything looks so perfect. And you push that button, you buy, and then like uh maybe not the next day, but the next week or whatever. It's like, oh God, why did I do that? Do I really need that? I don't think I do. Or I might get actually into the program and realize this is not what it was supposed to be. This is not going to give me
Mhm.
what I need. This is and so much shame and regret of like, I shouldn't have done this. I wasted my money. I did all this stuff. Well, before I really understood human design, I had that big lesson. I did that happen and I was just like, oh my God, how did I let that happen?
Mhm.
That's because something was sold to me and it felt very exciting, and I was pressured to make a decision. And I
Mhm.
allowed myself to be pressured because I did not know I had a choice and that it would be better for me to not make that decision. Right.
Mhm.
This has been such a big lesson for me, um, reinforced by understanding my authority, that I now know clearly when I'm feeling that pressure or when I'm very excited, but it's a big decision, I absolutely know now that I need to wait.
Mhm.
And it's not even sometimes 24 hours. I mean, sometimes it is really fast. 24 hours. I'm like, whew, glad I didn't do that. Because I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. But then also, um, I have to sometimes go through a lot of times of thinking about it or feeling into it to
Mhm.
understand. Because if it's something I really think I want, is to come back to it maybe a week later and I'll have more clarity. Now, emotional
Mhm.
authority, clarity is whether we talk about clarity with emotional authority over time is as clear as you're going to get. It's never like it's not
It's not crystal
100%.
clear.
Yeah. Because you can still get screwed up in your
Mhm.
thinking or whatever. But if you're really paying attention, you want to make a decision from a more neutral place where you're neither high, you're neither low, you're just kind of like, it gives you the
Steady
space
state.
to make it more steady. Um, Now, if you'll indulge me, I will say that my authority and your authority, everybody's authority, you can be following it unconsciously, don't even realize it. If you look back over time, it might be those decisions that worked out best for you were in line with what your authority actually is.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Because in your case, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but there are certain decisions you may have made, or I mean, even like
I
how you
kind of
met your
have.
husband.
Oh, yeah.
Go
What are you
ahead.
gonna say on that one? No.
Well, I mean, the whole Tinder swipe is kind of a in the moment back and forth, like
It is.
yes, no. And
But
go
that
ahead.
one was kind of like, I don't know if it was I went against my authority or if I followed my authority and went against my head. Because, like, I remember I initially was gonna swipe no or whatever, and then I
Mm-hmm.
paused and I looked at it and I basically said, "Ah, what the hell?" and swiped yes. So
Well, yeah.
I don't know in that one if that was following my authority or I don't
Well,
know.
I would say maybe because there was there's an instinct to be like that made you pause in the first place.
Yeah.
Because if you were just going by visual clues, because I think you said what he was doing in the picture, he like had a
It
fish
was
or
a
something.
grainy picture of him holding a fish. It was the grainiest picture possible.
Your mind is like, why? But then you're like, maybe. It's an idea. But, for me, it's like, oh, you had one. Go ahead. You said you had one
Yeah.
before I interrupted
So
you.
I was kind of thinking like when Presley first proposed the idea of moving out here to Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
like I kind of remember being just like, yeah, let's do it. And then later as we talked about it, then my mind was kind of like, oh, but then we'll be so far away from family and all of these and it was trying to talk me out of it, but I never felt like it was a no. It
Mm-hmm.
was just scary and my mind was trying to rationalize that fear of why we shouldn't do it.
Make
But
you
I
feel
think it
safe.
was
Yeah.
my authority saying, "Yes, do it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because each, step along the way, there was never really anything that was real, like telling you this is a bad idea.
Mhm.
There was nothing like you didn't you were able to rationalize, I guess not rationalize, you were able, I hope, to distinguish that these are just fears
Mhm.
because you're going into the unknown. You don't know what the
Mhm.
outcome's going to be. But I don't think there was any kind of like serious like this is a bad idea. Don't do this. This is
Mhm.
terrible. Um so what I got to when I was thinking about this subject and about decision making, but like I said about authority playing out even when you don't even know it is like how I met your father. You know, Sacral response can give you something to respond to that your mind cannot make sense of, right? But the
Mhm.
body, the sacral response is like, yes. And this is what happened to me, but I'm emotional. So when your dad likes to tell a story that I stalked him because we didn't meet until long after I first saw him. I was new to his awareness, but he was not new to my awareness. I was aware of
Mhm.
him a long time before. And the sacral response was we were in a club watching a band. I was there with my current boyfriend, who I did not, I mean, I had a little sense of dissatisfaction. I'm like, he's a nice guy. I liked him, all
It
that
was
stuff.
okay.
I was happy he was there and everything. But on that night in particular, I was feeling very judgmental of him, the way he dressed, and he wasn't into the band like I was into and everything. And then I turned to my left and I saw this other guy who was your dad, and Sacral was like, yes.
It was the curly hair.
It was a curly hair, full on curly hair. But the instant, like, whoa, got my attention, like, yes. And then there was no question. I was like, oh, I'm in the wrong thing, right? I'm doing the wrong thing
Mhm.
right now. And so it was almost looking at him was a yes, but also it was answering a yes or no as far as my boyfriend. Like there was part of me that knew that like this wasn't really right,
Mhm.
but there wasn't enough information or anything to respond to get me to like end it. But
Mhm.
I ended it that night.
Poor
The car
guy.
ride on the way home. I was like, this is wrong. But I think this is why, in retrospect, which most of the times your authority, you can see it working better in
Mhm.
retrospect. It's hard to always sit in it in the moment, but
Mhm.
looking back at your decisions. So it was almost a month later before I met your dad, fish officially, but
Mhm.
I still saw him all the time in the same place that we would go to just go see bands. I would see him and it was continuously a yes. Like every time
Mhm.
I looked at him or whatever, it was like, yeah, that's
Mhm.
I'm really into that person. I would really like to know that person. Who is that guy?
Mhm.
Like blah blah blah. And so then when I finally met him, it stayed that way. It always stayed yes. I mean, we question it 35 years later. It's like, what? But no, over time, it still stayed yes. So it's like
Mhm.
interesting to see how, for a big decision like who to build a life with and what to do and all that other stuff, I had all those layers of splenic. Like he came into my awareness. There was a sacral awareness, there was the response. But then I took my time in, because when we actually finally met, it would seem like a whirlwind, like we were together, like
Mhm.
inseparable. But for me, as the emotional authority there, um, I had already taken a lot of time to feel like this was right. Now, as your dad, also emotional with sacral
Mhm.
authority, it took him a little longer to come around. Like
Mhm.
we were definitely into each other, but I was the one to express like I love you before he did,
Mhm.
because he's like, I remember someone said it, because it had been like in my head for so long. And then when I finally said, he's like, thank you. That's nice. Thank you for telling me. And I'm like, what did I just do? But I didn't feel like he was turning me down. And then but he had time. He had to warm up to it a little bit more to make that right
Mhm.
decision. But anyways, I'll never forget that. It's not like in the movies, when they say, "Oh, I love you.
Oh,
I love you too." No, you might get a like, "Oh, thank
I think I had the same thing.
you."
Like when I first said it to Presley, I just blurted it out in the car one time.
Mhm.
He had said something, and I just blurted it out, and I don't think he said it back.
It's like, I need to go home, make a spreadsheet. I gotta have a pro and con list here,
He's like, I gotta logic through this.
which is wrong because he's a
Uh-huh.
sacral authority. Trusted. All right. So I think we've made the point. So, what can you do then? Some practical experiments. It's like, okay, how do you learn to trust your authority and not your mind? So, if you start looking at your mind as the way it is meant to be, it is a beautiful gift. It is there to help
Mhm.
analyze, conceptualize, gather information, everything. But getting used to the idea that it is not the decision maker in your
Mhm.
life. How do you do this? You start tuning into how the body feels, which I think what helped me understand this concept so much easier and take to it was the fact that I had spent so many years before learning about authority in practices that were about body awareness,
Mhm.
yoga and meditation, of like clearing the space, clearing the mind, getting into the body, understanding, like getting in touch with how your body feels in different situations, understanding when you're having like that cortisol spike, or if you're really tired, or if you feel really energized, like just start taking notice of it, no matter what your type is, tracking your physical sensations during a decision making process. It's helpful, of course, you'll know what your authority is because
Mhm.
you've downloaded your chart, you understand all that. But if you start daily making a practice of how you physically feel, but then also try to pay attention when you're presented with decisions, how you feel. And like I said, if you're sacral, getting someone to help you with those yes or no responses is great. If you're splenic like you are, just kind of pay attention to like how you move through the grocery store, or how you decide which way to drive to the park that day or whatever. Like, see if you are following just instinct, or if you're trying to kind of push your way through, especially with the splenic authority and your intuition, how often you disregard your intuition. And as I said, in hindsight, you see, God dang it, I should have listened. It's like, oh, I want to go turn right this day today to get to the park, but that's going to be like 5 minutes longer on my route. I should just go this way. So you go the way you always go, and then there's a accident, and
Mhm.
you're now no time left for your little walk or jog because you were in traffic for 45 minutes. It's like, start paying attention to those things,
Mhm.
little minor decisions to help you build trust, right?
Mhm.
Okay. As we said, getting into the body, also creating space in the mind, basically, I should say. It's not really in the mind. It's creating space in your whole presence. Like if you can, which is why mindfulness is so important and why they talk about clearing the mind, because when you're learning meditation and they tell you to focus on like counting your breaths or breathing in
Mhm.
and out, that you eventually get to a spot where you realize there's a space in between the pause, between
Mm.
the inhale, the exhale, between the counting, between this thought and that thought. There is a space. It gets bigger the more that you meditate and you learn to calm your mind, because it's that space in between is the presence, the present moment. And in the present moment, there's no past, there's no future, there's no mental activity to inform the decision. It's just what you're feeling in the moment. So
Mm.
expanding that practice is really helpful. And just really build, like I said, the habit of checking in, seeing where you can maybe take some of the decisions off of your plate. Like I say, when we were started this episode talking about what you wear or whatever, sometimes routines can help create stagnation, but they can
Mhm.
also help create a space where you don't have to make so many decisions in a day,
Mhm.
so that you have more space for uh, being able to, well, I don't want to say more space, so you feel less fatigued in the decisions
Mhm.
that you do have to make because you're not like
Yeah.
micromanaging every decision in your day.
Yeah, it can keep you fresher for those more important decisions.
Right. And then just as decision fatigue can build up where you get to a point where I don't know the right decision, I don't know the right decision, it gets bigger, bigger, bigger. The more you trust your authority and allow that to lead, it can have the same kind of building authority, that instead of a negative fatigue downward spiral, you can strengthen that muscle and have a more positive spiral of trusting yourself, because
Mm.
with each decision that feels right and has an outcome that is desirable to you, you're building your confidence and trusting
Mhm.
yourself and making those decisions. So you kind of can create more energy within yourself because you're done like second guessing everything. You
Mhm.
may still
Yeah.
second guess certain things, but
You
when
have more
you
confidence when you get to that point of second guessing. You're
mhm,
like, "No, I know. My
yeah,
body knows this."
right, because we don't we don't always know. Our mind is not going to be able to tell us the only way we will know the outcome is if we make that decision. But if we're following our energy, we know that it's leading us in the right direction, because
Mhm.
the magnetic monopole that lives in the G center is there to help lead us in the right direction, to bring things to us that are right for us. But if we're always in a state of stress or indecision, it's very hard for a lot of these opportunities to present themselves or whatever. But when you start making those little confidence builders in your little decision making, it has that effect of strengthening that
Mhm.
muscle and ending that second guessing game. And like I said, what are some of the things that you can take off your plate as far as daily decisions? I think even how we talked about the meal planning, there's a certain amount of planning, but there's also flexibility.
Mhm.
There's a foundation of where you can like, okay, I have this. I don't
Mhm.
have to choose every day from 50 possibilities. I can choose today from these three possibilities of what
Mhm.
I can do. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So all in all, just so I wanted to let y'all, as we look at authority, what it means, how it plays out, is that you already know. Your body knows the answer, your energy knows which way to go. And, you know, it's a matter of, I think, also like trust and faith that you are supported in the world of,
Mhm.
it's always whatever you want to call it, Gus, God, universe, source, is um, wanting you to find what is correct for you, your joy. That's
Mhm.
where we're meant to be led. Like the ultimate reason we're here is to find joy, is to live a good life. Like, why else would we be in
Mhm.
physical bodies other than to experience the magic of being in a body and using it as a not only a vehicle for helping us make the decisions, but also to experience the fruits of those decisions, of finding what feels good in
Mhm.
life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, talking about trusting Gus, if you look at nature, like nature isn't making these decisions. Like what I'm trying to say is nature is doing what's best for nature because that is what the universe is giving it.
Just
That's
to
how it's
thrive.
made. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's to thrive.
flourish and
It's
thrive. Mm-hmm.
and it's that's just shows that universe wants the best because
Mm-hmm.
that's how it made nature and that's how it made us.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Good.
Ta-da.
So, on that note, I know that it can be difficult learning to trust that authority. You probably have questions about it. And this is one of the things we can talk about in this month's community call, which is coming up on March 26th at 7 p.m. I said, if you are a subscriber to Substack, to the podcast, to the email list, you will get notification about that and all the details of where to go, how to sign up, all that. But these are things we're trying to do as we move forward once a month, these calls where we invite you to come and hang out with us on Zoom. We can go over, if we want to talk about what we did talk about this month, this is one of them: decision making, how to use your authority, how to trust it, maybe get in touch with it. This is a place where we can do that. Have your questions answered. You might have a specific situation, how to work through it. That's what we're there for, to open up this conversation. And so I hope you'll go over there and sign up for that if you're not already, because these calls are free. The replays will not be automatic. They will be behind the paywall to protect everybody's sense of privacy and whatnot. But if you want to be there live, it's free. Come on in. We'd love to have you. So check it out in the show notes. All right, Haley, we're going to wrap up this episode with your favorite segment. What time is it, Haley?
The Incarnation Cross of the Week.
Correct. It's time for the Incarnation Cross of the Week, where we go through one Incarnation Cross because everybody has one, right?
It's like a belly button.
You're born with it. You may not know it's there, may not see it, but it's there. Yes. So the Incarnation Cross is comprised of the sun and earth gates on both sides of your chart, conscious and unconscious side, personality, design, whatever you want to call it. And these are the main life themes, main energy themes you have present in your energetic makeup. And so it's always with you. And it is the energy that you bring in, right? It's what other people experience from you, whether you're aware of it or not. And when we talk about strategy and authority, what's really interesting there is that the more you practice your strategy and authority, as far as learning to embody that, this incarnation cross can be expressed in its fullest form, because you are then raising yourself up to what is most energetically beneficial for you, which then raises that vibration and brings out these beautiful expressions of the high vibe expression of the incarnation cross, which is what we highlight here. It's like, I like them because it shows you your potential in the sense of, you think, oh, I want to be that, if you don't feel that you are, but you already are. You just have to like trust yourself and trust what your body is telling you of what's right for you and fall in that direction. I think a lot of times these descriptions help you lock into like, I want to be like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you resonate with it because it's there, but then also like having it put into words like gives you something further to like see and work towards and like really understand. I think really understand your design.
Yeah, understanding your full potential. Exactly. Okay, so this week we're going to look at the left angle cross of healing. And so this consists on the design side of the chart, personality side, black numbers. You'll see the sun is in gate 25, spirit of self, and the earth is in gate 46, determination. And then on the left side of the chart, on the design or unconscious side, the sun is in gate 58, joy. And the earth is in gate 52, stillness.
So we have spirit of the self, determination, joy, and stillness.
Correct. And it's a left
see.
angle cross, so it is.
That means that the profile starts with a line 5 or a line 6.
That is correct. Okay. So if you were born under the left angle cross of healing, you were born to inspire and lead others toward a life of vibrant health and joy, helping them reconnect with the vitality that allows them to live fully. You have a deep understanding of how important well-being is for creating a life that feels fulfilling and meaningful. Through your unique ability to help others heal, you guide them in embracing practices that restore balance, aligning them with their true purpose. By correcting what stands in the way of their joy, you empower them to feel better in both body and spirit, opening the door to a life filled with possibility and peace. Your purpose is rooted in helping others discover the healing power within themselves. As you guide people through the process of transforming past pain and limiting beliefs, you help them align with their higher purpose, unlocking their full potential. Through this, you not only improve their health, but also guide them toward deeper fulfillment, helping them feel the beauty of a life led by purpose and clarity. You're here to show others that true healing is not just physical, but a profound journey of returning to the joy and vitality that's always been theirs to claim.
It's so good. They're always like a warm hug.
That's it. All right. So that brings us to the end of today's episode. It's been really fun hanging out with you again, Haley. I always love being here. And we appreciate you listening, because without you here, I guess we wouldn't be here either. So we love it. And we'd love for you to come hang out with us on the 26th. So make sure you check out all those details. And yeah, so with that, we'll just say bye for now, Haley.
Bye.
You made it all the way to the end of today's episode, so you must have liked what you heard. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and perhaps leave us a good review. And if you know someone who wants to dig into all things human design with us, make sure you share the Human Design Hive podcast with them. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening.